Now we turn to the most tangible result of Bob Mueller's first year of work, the indictments, and what they suggest about the future of this probe and how they may be rattling Donald Trump himself. You know, it's easy to forget the first indictment came fast, just 5 months into this probe.
The first indictment in the investigation into alleged ties between the Trump campaign and Russia.
The president's former campaign chief, Paul Manafort, has already surrendered himself to the FBI, and his former deputy, Rick Gates, has been told to turn himself in.
This is it. These are the indictments. They did work for Ukraine and were paid by the Ukrainian government, but that they hid these payments from U.S. authorities.
That was a big deal, but Trump initially claimed the reports left him feeling vindicated because the indictments, the first ones, focused on activity before 2016. Trump tweeted at 10:25 a.m. that day, "This is years ago, before Manafort was part of the Trump campaign," and adding a few minutes later, "There's no collusion." Well, Donald Trump's tweets aged poorly. As the old saying goes, tweet first, ask questions last. That's how most of these so-called gangsters pass, because minutes later, news broke Mueller secured his first guilty plea, and it was campaign related.
A former Trump campaign advisor, George Papadopoulos, has pleaded guilty in a separate case to giving false statements to the FBI.
It's 10:35 a.m. here on Monday, and we are reporting the first Russia-related charge in Bob Mueller's investigation. That was a big deal by any measure, and the onslaught of indictments continued in the following months.
Mueller has filed charges against 13 defendants who are Russians. They are charged, these defendants, with defrauding the United States of America.
These new charges in the Special Counsel's Russia investigation against a guy named Alex van der Zwaan.
Russian-linked attorney Alex van der Zwaan departing a district courthouse moments ago after pleading guilty for lying to the FBI.
And that's not all. If you count it all up, you got 4 indictments of former Trump aides or advisors, a California, London-based attorney, 13 Russian nationals, as well as 3 Russian companies, and then you have key members of Trump's team who are, of course, cooperating. Now, some critics say, enough, Mueller should wrap it up after about a year here, and they question what he's achieved, which is fair game to debate. But as a historical factual matter, Bob Mueller is actually more productive than most people on this kind of assignment in history. During the Bush era, there was a special counsel appointed to probe an illegal leak, which led to 1 indictment, Scooter Libby. Trump pardoned him this year. Everyone remembers Counsel Kenneth Starr, who investigated Clinton. That case also only led directly to 1 federal indictment. Iran-Contra was 14 people. That's quite a bit more, but the first year alone of Mueller's Russia probe has 19 indictments. That includes, of course, the 13 Russians charged directly with interfering in U.S. democracy. Maya Wiley is back with me, and I want to bring in Guy Lewis to this conversation, a former federal prosecutor who's worked with Bob Mueller, James Comey, and Rod Rosenstein at the DOJ. Guy, put this in context for us. A good investigator does not, of course, evaluate based on a total number of indictments, because their job is to find the facts, and if the facts aren't bad, maybe no one should be indicted. Having said that, what does this historical frame tell you about the critics who say that Bob Mueller is not getting anything done?
I think it disproves them beyond any doubt whatsoever. Remember, Ari, Bob Mueller didn't ask for this job. Just like serving as a Marine and serving in Vietnam, he was called upon. He has agreed to serve, and I think he's done a terrific job. And you and Dan and Maya, who have given, I think, terrific analysis, hit the nail on the head. Bob has indicted 22 people and various companies. He's obtained, I think, 5 guilty pleas so far, 1 individual sentenced. And maybe even more importantly, Ari, how many leaks have we heard? How many press conferences have we seen? 0. And I got to tell you, for someone in this kind of case, with this kind of scrutiny, I got to give Bob Mueller a lot of credit for what he's doing so far.
Maya, what does it tell you that the president is obsessed with this on a personal basis? So he talks about the personal witch hunt. But you can't factually dismiss what we just laid out, that there are people who got caught and pled guilty, so there's no debate left, and the system is supposed to work that way.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Lewis is exactly right about Bob Mueller, who has been nothing but an extremely competent public servant who has simply put his head down and gone about his job. What is going on with Donald Trump, which I think we should all be concerned about, is we have not seen what a credible politician would normally do under these circumstances in which people close to him or people who have been in his campaign or in his inner circle are indicted, which is to immediately say that they do not condone the conduct, that they are disturbed. They would praise an investigator that actually had identified potential violations of law. They wouldn't necessarily throw them completely under the bus,
Well,
but they would certainly express concern.
How about this? Go down memory lane. I'm old enough to remember when we had like a national conversation about how candidate Barack Obama had to disown his pastor.
That's right.
For things that were regrettable, that a lot of people disagree with, but this was a pastor who said words in a public setting. And there was it was an endless thing about how fully you have to disown. In Donald Trump's case, I mean, you're saying something that I think gets forgotten. Campaign chair indicted. Deputy campaign chair pled guilty cooperating. National security advisor pled guilty cooperating. Foreign policy advisor pled guilty cooperating. At what point is there an obligation for the Republican Party and everyone else in the country to say, you need to condemn all of that?
Yes.
Innocent until proven guilty, sure, but some of these people are guilty.
You are the highest political official in the land of the United States, and you're sworn to uphold the Constitution and the laws of this country. It is simply nothing short of despicable that you've not spoken out and said, while I don't necessarily believe any of these charges may come to actual convictions, which you could say if you want to, but I think it's incredibly important that the American people understand what happened and that there's a full and fair trial and that we must hear and understand what has happened.
Guy?
Well, I think Maya is exactly right in terms of this is extraordinary. But I think they'll both, Dan and Maya will tell you, as we went through as assistant U.S. attorneys and prosecuted case after case, this wasn't unusual that either the agents or the agency would get attacked and vilified, or even the prosecutors when we would try cases, big and small. Not unusual that the other side would use that tactic. 99% of the time it didn't work, but the other side didn't have sort of a national platform, a bully pulpit that they could be tweeting at 3 and 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, and it would be on national news all day. So that's the big difference.
Yeah.